As a heads up, this video is just me rambling really, so it might seem disjointed. That being said, I've played Uncharted 2 for the first time recently, and let's just say I'm not a fan. I did also play the first one, but it was so forgettable, there was nothing to make a video on. But this is the one everyone praises to death. Of course, I'm going into this knowing that it just isn't really a game for me, but that doesn't mean I have to dislike it. Fallout, for example, I don't like it, but I see the things it does right and why it's so beloved. Or at least was, I guess. So with that in mind, I'd really like to know what people see in Uncharted 2. Almost every single thing this game offers I dislike. Let's go down the generic checklist. The story? It exists, I guess? Have you heard of something called plot device? It can be a character or an object that only exists to progress the plot. And I feel like the story of this game is a device to get you to cool set pieces. Nothing more. It's always, oh, I need that, let's go find it. On the way you get chased by a huge truck, witness a beautiful cityscape, a luxury pool, a helicopter chase, an entire building crashes while you're inside it, and so on. All of these things you just see, but it doesn't feel like you experience them, because most of the time you just press the stick in one direction and that's it. I feel so bored watching these generic action movie scenes. I would guess that the goal of the developers was to make the player feel like a cool badass by controlling Drake, who's an action hero. While there is a series which has a pretty similar goal but approaches it in a completely different way. Every time I get the chance, I have to talk about DMC. Dante and Drake are both superhuman badasses, at least in cutscenes, because in combat, Drake looks like this? Don't know about you, but it doesn't look exciting to me. On the other hand, you can do this with Dante. Dante is consistent, he's always a cool guy doing cool stuff. With Drake you just watch him do stuff like that, but it feels meaningless, because at the end of the day Uncharted is a video game. Yes, I know Naughty Dog doesn't want that, but it is what it is. The story is completely forgettable. Pretty much an amusement park ride, which lets you see some impressive stuff. But hey, I think most people like the characters, so maybe that no. Now, before I rant about the characters, I have to clarify something. I grew up in a different way compared to most people my age. Through complete coincidence, all the media I've gotten as a present when I was a child were very Japanese. The games I played, the shows I watched, the movies I saw. Everything came from Japan, and with a few exceptions, I avoided all the popular media from America. What that led to is me being a weeb today and getting incredibly bored by characters like the ones in Uncharted. All these guys are so fucking American, it honestly hurts. Every second I played this game, I heard a Kay Connor sounding voice in my head saying something among the lines of, "Hell yeah, brother, killing people to get some treasure is justified since America comes first." Look, the baseline is, I don't like any of the characters the same way many people dislike the tropes you see in anime like tsundere, deredere and so on. Drake is just generic action hero number 237. Every time he has some witty remark I just cringe to the core of my very being. Eleanor is just normal woman, I don't know, she's so boring and generic there's nothing to say. Chloe really confused me though. Throughout the story we're supposed to empathize with her, but one of the first things we see in the game is her kinda cheating on Flynn. Like a true American, Nathan takes what he wants. Don't get me wrong, I like NTR, but this is completely different. She's an actual character you're supposed to feel for, not just a faceless dude with no screen time. And no, Flynn being a backstabber doesn't make her actions any better. Speaking of him, Flynn is kinda confusing. The entire time I thought he's the generic, yeah, I betrayed you, but at the end I'll side with you again type of guy. But nope.
He took the pain.
Get back! Elena!
That scene is the biggest surprise in this game. And as if it wasn't enough that all these fuckers suck, the only good character has next to no screen time. Sully is the generic mentor slash father figure, but they're always cool and he actually has dialogue that feels somewhat natural. But yeah, you don't really get that from this game, you have to play the first one. Now as the last one, we have the clown of this game. I ask you to pay good attention because what you're about to witness is the world record speedrun in the category Ruining Your Villain.
This man was caught stealing artifacts from site number 5.
You would betray me for this?
No, Zoran, I can't explain.
No need.
This is the first thing you see of him. Please tell me this must have been cringe back in 2009, right? Like nobody thought,
wow, what an interesting character, I can't wait to see more of him.
At least I really hope so. And as a cherry on top, He's Russian. You can't make this shit up. Alright, the two things most people like about Uncharted, I don't fuck with at all. So what about the things nobody defends about these games? The gameplay is the picture book definition of fucking boring. This series popularized climbing in video games and I couldn't despise it more for that. I know it's been memed to death, but holding the stick forward does not count as gameplay. Uncharted wants to be a movie so bad, but because it's a video game, they needed to add in some interaction, and this is what we got. At that point, just let me watch a movie, please. And it's not like climbing is just a little part of the gameplay. No, it's like 40% of it. Just holding the stick forward, watching the same animations. And the peak of excitement is pressing X for changing ledges. Fuck this. The rest of the gameplay are gunfights. The guns themselves feel fine for the most part, but what of course sucks is the fact that you can only keep 2 at a time. There's no valid reason for not having a weapon wheel. I think they chose to do it this way so that people that don't play video games don't get overwhelmed, because that's the people this series is made for. People that like movies and heard from a friend, "Whoa dude, there's this game that's just like a movie. You have all these cool explosions and bitches and evil Russians." Of course, since it's a 2000 shooter, it has cover mechanics, which suck the same way as they do in every other cover-based shooter. Just doing nothing until the enemy stops firing. And if you hurt, you get to do even more of nothing. Just wait. Yep. Back to the action. Oh no, close to death, gotta wait again. I always play games on higher difficulties, so I spend a lot of time just sitting there, waiting for the red on my screen to disappear. No one likes cover shooters, let's just move on. The thing that exists in this game is close combat. I never really was a part of the Uncharted community, but I imagine it must be a meme, right? Just watch and listen to these sound effects. This clip does not even come close to giving you a feeling of how fucking dogshit close combat feels in this game. You have to experience it for yourself. It's definitely one of the worst things I've ever seen in a video game. And it's not just that it feels bad, just like the entire game, it has zero depth. Just spam square, and if the enemy stops your attack, spam triangle to counter. I guess this is also where I should bring up the stealth mechanics. I personally despise stealth gameplay, so I'm quite pleased that the enemies don't mind me jumping around like a monkey. Definitely more A than I. Another thing that bothered me constantly is how on the rails this game is. There's zero room for creativity. The amount of fall damage gets decided solely by one factor. Did the devs want you to go there? You can see in this clip I fell from this height and I'm fine, but here I'm not allowed to, so I died. This game really is just a gallery of pretty scenery. Well, that's fine, is it really something that video games should strive towards? Imitating an inferior medium? At this point I just want to throw in some random stuff I couldn't fit in earlier. For example, the first chapter is fucking terrible. Climbing, cutscene, slow walking and a shit ton more climbing. Even though the shooter mechanics suck, they have at least a baseline of fun, which the first mission of course completely lacks. All the animations take so fucking long, I hate it. Realism? Shut up. It's called garbage. In chapter 11 you have to drag this random dude who's completely irrelevant and it makes you move at a snail's pace. No game should ever slow down your movement speed. It's just annoying and that overshadows whatever story relevancy that moment was supposed to have. I think it was chapter 16 which was just slow walking and cutscenes. That's all. Do I need to say anything? I hate how many fake tension scenes there are, Jesus Christ. Crumbling bridge here, chasing section there. Why? Drake is obviously gonna survive, it's impossible to build tension like this. I also despise how every character needs to throw around these cringy lines. Like in this scene, Chloe gets trapped in an elevator. Drake asks if she's gonna be okay while he tries to fix that and she answers, "Wish I brought a book." This is so painful. Are there really people who like writing like this? It's so alien to me, just way too tryhard. Drake constantly hangs onto every ledge he comes across. I just want to get down here, dude, no need to hold onto every single thing. I was looking for every possible way to move faster and it ends up with this. Pretty annoying. The final boss of course sucks. It's just a game of catch and when he gets too close, shoot these tanks. On a positive note, brutal mode is quite fun. You get 1 or 2 shot by everything, but the checkpoints are generous and you finally have to use some brain cells. Even on crushing, I breezed through the game. Brutal taught me how important of a mechanic spray firing is, because you die in less than a second if you peek your head out. You also get way less ammo. Instead of 30 shots per pickup, it's 3 or 4. It incentivizes using your brain. Come up with ways to avoid using ammo, like killing several guys with a grenade or stealth kills. But overall, this game is just frustrating. The conclusion I've arrived at with this video is that the people that like this game either really like American explosions or actually don't want to play a video game. They'd rather watch a movie. It's not that games like this shouldn't exist, but it is pretty concerning to me that they're so popular. I'm sure most players grew up with video games at a time where they they didn't really understand stories and couldn't determine good or bad writing, just playing games because they're fun. I wish people would get in touch with their inner child again and question, is it really fun to mow down brain dead horse of AI? How enjoyable is it really to hold the stick forward? Well, as expected, I really don't like this game. In my eyes, it's unhealthy for the industry, but oh well, what do I know? I'm just some random weeb.